Hello and welcome to this case study presentation. My name is JP Albano. I am the co-founder and CEO of Significant Lifestyle Communities, a vertically integrated multifamily owner-operator. We specialize in buying value-add multifamily apartments in the Southeast, and we add value by making it a better place to live. We do some renovations, and we increase value for the people that live there, and of course, our investors as well. In this presentation, I'm going to walk through a handful of case study deals that we've fully cycled. Fully cycled means we bought them and we sold them, and we'll cover what we've done with them, some highlights, and just to give you a sense of how we operate as a business and the sort of deals that we've done historically. Now, going forward, these are among our earlier deals, our first deals, and so since this time, we've kind of changed a little bit of our target properties that we go after. We go after typically larger properties, anywhere from 200 to 300 units in size. And some of these deals that you'll see here were much smaller because you got to start somewhere, right? So without further ado, we'll jump into it. We're going to talk about these four properties: Monterey Vista, Air Haven, Riverdale, and Shaker. And we'll get into it now. So a quick disclaimer, right? Not an attorney, not a CPA or a tax advisor. None of this should be construed as an investment. This is not a solicitation. So let's get into these deals that we're showing here. So just high-level details right now. Monterey Vista is a 28-unit apartment complex in Houston, Texas. Air Haven is a 55 or 56 unit apartment complex in Georgia. I say 55 or 56 because depending on how we count the office, we would go back and forth with that. And then our 92 unit in Riverdale, Georgia, and then our Shaker 6 property, 278 unit in Shaker Heights, Ohio. And so this presentation is really broken down into a few areas. We're going to talk about the deal, the highlights of the deal, some sample work of before and after, and then the return, what we told the investors and what we actually delivered. So now we get into the deals that we fully exited and completed here. So the first one, as mentioned, is Monterey Vista Apartments. This turns out to be our first deal that we actually did. It's a 28 unit in Houston, Texas. This was an off-market deal, meaning that it wasn't widely advertised to the public. And usually that's a good thing because you're able to buy it at a lower price than you would if you were competing with a lot of with Joe Q Public, right? We bought it for $2 million. We spent approximately $100,000 on the interiors as part of our plan to push the rents. They were already under market between $100 and $200. This deal paid off pretty well for our first investors, including my parents and friends who invested with us. The interior of this community is not atypical of what we work with. This may seem scary, but this is all normal for what we work with on a day-to-day, right? And the saying we like to use is where there's muck, there is money. And in this particular project, really all of our projects, we deal with this, right? This is something that you don't have to do. That's part of our value add for our investors, of course. And so when we completed our renovations, we had a really nice, clean, great place for people to live, and they were happy to pay the rent increases that we were asking for. And then as a potential investor, here are some of the highlights. So again, we purchased it for $2 million and we sold it for $3.2 million in around 3 years' time. We provided a 1.83x equity multiple. That's return on investor money. And what really this means is at 1.83 means we almost doubled our investor money. And just for general guidelines here, most apartment deals aim to double investors' money in about 5 years' time. That's sort of the average benchmark. We were able to almost double it in this example in a little over 3 years' time. And then we crushed our internal rate of return target of 17.89 with a 24%. And again, IRR is a internal rate of return, a very common metric used in real estate to measure essentially how your money makes a return within the investment. We're not going to get into details there, but I think just for your sake as a potential investor, we're just kind of getting a sense of how this all works. Equity multiples and IRR are two of the most common basic ways that you measure a potential investment's performance. Right? And then And again, most apartment deals aim for a 15% IRR. Those are some good rules of thumb. So the next deal we jumped into here is we were able to turn this property around in a quick period of time as well. Our nickname for this project was currently was called Airhaven Atlanta, but when we bought it, we were nicknaming it Cash Mahal because of the cash that it threw off. We bought this off market as well from the original owner who owned it for 60 years. It was sort of like going back into the land of before time, as I remember it. The previous owner, he hadn't increased rent in 2 years, which is insane for Atlanta. And the average one bedroom was actually renting for under $400 a month. This is in 2019. 2019. That's not a lot of money for a one bedroom apartment in a major city. The nearby apartments were 100% occupied, and they were renting out at over $900 per month. And so the plan here was, let's get this place out to market, and even if we can get $600, it's still many $100s cheaper than $900. It's still a few $100s higher than the $400, and that would be a slam dunk. Well, our plan was to renovate the kitchens and make them nicer, add some kitchens in some of the units. A lot of them didn't have it. Actually, all of them had no kitchens. They were all one bedroom, one bath apartments. They weren't very nice, but we made them nicer than what they were before. You'll see that in some of the before pictures. I mean, this place was in really, really rough shape. Now, moving forward, this isn't the sort of asset that we will be acquiring. At the time, it was a great, there's a fire unit there. At the time, it was a great experience builder. It was local to where I was living in the Atlanta metro area. And the upside was enormous, which you'll see here in a second. But moving forward, we will be purchasing more, I guess we'll call them conventional apartments, right? Where, for you or your loved ones are like, hey, we're going to move to this new complex. They wouldn't think you're crazy, right? And so, again, this place is in very, very rough shape, and the previous owner was doing virtually nothing to this property when we bought it, and it really showed. However, we were quickly leasing out the initial 14 units that we were offline when we bought it for $650. Right after takeover, right? That's $250 more than what the previous owner was renting it for. And in some instances, the nicer, larger units, they were getting between $800 and $850. And as an investor, that means it's more cash flow coming, to you through distributions and potential increase in value during the refinance cash out. And that means really, we get to return a huge chunk of your initial investment back to you tax-free for you to reinvest in perhaps another project if you like. And so, at the end of the project, this turned out to be very, very lucrative. We earned our investors a 3.27x equity multiple return on their investment. So if you put in 100K into this deal, you would have made $327,000. And again, a 3.27x equity multiple means that we return 3 1/4 times our investor money back. So we purchased this deal for $900,000. It's sort of unheard of, and sold it for $2.45 million in less than 3 years' time. Again, this is an atypical deal, but it shows that we can work with very, very ugly properties and execute them very, very well for our investors. Now, let's look at some of our current and active deals. These are deals that we haven't full cycled. We own them currently, and we are, of course, depending on the timing of when you're watching this, we haven't full cycled them as a recording of this presentation, but we can share with some of the highlights that we've done along the way. So I know there's a lot here, and I'll break down just the highlights for you. So this is one of our more recent purchases. This is a 92 unit in a suburb of Atlanta called Riverdale. We bought it for $9.8 million, and it was heavily vacant, around 67% when we took over. Many of the apartments were still under construction, and many of the people there were neglected by the previous owners. We quickly started renovating the offline units and increased rents by 45% for new leases, and then for renewals, over 20%. And renewals are great because we typically don't have to spend any money to get that increase in rent. In other words, we just basically ask for, hey, the rent went up in the marketplace, you got to pay more, you're really under market. And they have a choice, either move out or stay. Just like you, moving's a pain in the butt, so most people tend to stay. We also find that people don't typically push back on rent increases if they see that they're getting value. When the previous ownership was neglecting the people there, it's a hard ask, right? Like, hey, I want more money, but you're not doing anything for me, right? The way we operate our properties is very, very much customer service focused. And so people were seeing we were a night and day difference between the previous ownership. And so they're like, yeah, you guys are doing what you said you would do. You were going to make this a nicer place. So we got thumbs up for that. We also implemented a few programs to help reduce the downside risk, right? That means loss of money from the tenants by implementing a stronger renter's insurance policy that gave us 2 to 3 times the rent coverage instead of the typical $500 or $1,000 per month if they violate their lease. And as an investor, this is great because we're reducing the potential expenses for the business, which would impact how much profit you make. And the property completed its renovations about 1 year ahead of schedule and is currently in the process of refinancing it. We worked to provide our investors a return of capital within the first 2 years of this project. More importantly, this is an example of a deal where we saved investors a ton of money on their taxes, and I'll show you the next slide. So this may show up weird. There we go. Okay, so this is an actual tax savings example. So this is like total great proof of the pudding. This is a real personal example. I got this guy's permission to share this because, frankly, it's me. I put in $232,000 into the deal, and I wrote off 114% more than I invested in the year it was invested. So what this showed me was, leasing cars and wasting money on lower ticket write-offs were really getting you nowhere. If you invest your cash and you can lower your taxable income and you can make your money grow, it's really a win-win-win, right? I'll expect to turn this $232,000 into $460,000 in 3 to 5 years. And if this was you, think about that. How could you use $232,000 of passive income plus the tax benefits? I'll show you the screenshot here. Now, the mechanics of how this actually works is really a little bit beyond the scope of this presentation, but really it has to do with depreciation. We're allowed to write off the work that we did in the property, the renovations, which results in a lot of depreciation. And we pass that depreciation to investors, and they get a ton of write-off money. And so you can see here, this is a K1 statement that we got, and the green line is just showing you what the loss that we took that will go right to lower my or result in a lower adjusted gross income on my tax return. These are some before photos. Again, a lot of the units were almost to the studs or in the process of renovation we took over, so we were able to kind of take off where they were and keep that moving forward. Then the after is just a refreshing difference, right? The exterior of the buildings were repainted. We put in new flooring, new kitchens, new countertops, new bathrooms, did the whole thing, and we received a lot of positive feedback from the new members that move in there. We don't call them renters; we call them members, and it's been great. So again, in Riverdale, the transformation has been extraordinary. We have a ton of families living there. We have a elementary school and a middle school that are located right across the street, and so it's a perfect location for someone that wants to live there with kids in kindergarten or first grade, and they really could be an ideal tenant or member from first grade all the way through 8th grade. Right? It was a really great opportunity there, and then of course our property manager, or our community mayor that we call her, Zaid, is a wonderful addition to the community there. She is like the village mom for everybody. She has the kids come in for like a mini after-school daycare. I shouldn't say daycare. A mini after-school program. The kids come in with their report cards and their tests and their artwork, and she's just very, very supportive, and the people love her. So these are some results to rent. These are always kind of continually improving as of this recording. This is the progress we've made. In Q3 of 22, Q4 22, we've continually to push the average rent increases. These percentages that you see here, where we've got a projected and actual, we've exceeded those numbers in most of those quarters. And I just want to point this out that most apartment complexes, when you're doing a value add community, most times you're expected in the first 1 or 2 years, the average increase in rents for renewals or just new leases are usually pretty modest. They're usually between, we'll call it 5 and 8%. So the fact that we're getting 30%, 20%, 50%, over 30% is pretty extraordinary. So let's jump into another property that we currently own. This is our largest property to date. It's a 278 unit in a very, very affluent suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. It was very poorly managed when we bought it and sort of borderline neglected. There's a lot of info here, just like the Riverdale one, but I'll focus you on a handful of things here. One is that we increased the monthly utility charge bills, sort of like a bill back for using the water and the sewer and trash, by 67%. And we raised the rents 30% without having to spend any money on renovations. And that's huge, right? That's just like basically free money because we're asking for it. In a period of 1.5 years approximately, we almost doubled the value of this property, going from $16.7 million to $30 million. And this is some more Shaker 6. We self, the reason why it says Antastafate managed in the top right is that denotes that my company manages this property. We self-manage it along with the others that were shown here as well. And this is part really of our secret sauce. Our property management team firm really only serves one client, which is us. We train our team to use a style of management that is exclusive to us. It's based on what's called the Primer Ethic. It's a 20-year proven model licensed to us by our mentor, Howard Primer. It's a blend of apartment operations with hotel hospitality. The benefit for you as the investor is that it lowers the renter move-outs, which cost us money, increases the renewal percentages, and allows us to justify charging more each month for rent to the people that live there. Here's some before photos. This became our model home. And you'll see some afters here as well. This is the kitchen of that model home on the top right corner. And these photos came out great in person. And once we got this online, we were able to rent out a lot more homes because people had a sense of a vision of what the community would look like once we're done with our work. And so again, this is current work in progress, right? We spent almost $4 million in renovations. So we're pretty good at handling large budgets and large projects. We were successful in raising rents more than 30% without renovations, which is really unheard of. The industry standard, as I mentioned, is 5 to 7%. For investors in the project, we increased the bottom line profit, the NOI, the bottom line, 74%. You should care about that because increasing the bottom line profit is how the property is valued by the bank. And when it comes time to do a cash out refinance, the higher the bottom line profit, the more we can return back to investors. And that's part of the strategy is to you buy a property where it's undervalued, you force the appreciation by making renovations, you clean up the books, you do all the things, you increase the profitability. And then in a year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on the size of the project, you go back to the bank and say, hey, look, the profit was X when I bought it. It's now Y, X plus Y, right? It's a number that's actually greater than that. There's more value, there's more cash for the property. I want a new loan. And they'll size the loan to that new profitability of the property. And then that the money that we're able to pull out is tax-free, return of capital to our investors. And so sometimes it's anywhere from 20, 30, 40, 60% of their original investment back at refinance time. And then you, as an investor, can take that money and you can go invest it in another project. And so this is how you kind of multiply and increase your profitability and your pathway to financial freedom is doing it like this. And again, you're not lifting a finger. You're not actively working to collect rents. We're doing that for you. And so this is our current full cycle track record here. We've got 3 deals. I didn't include one of the deals, the Augusta deal, in the presentation here. That was a joint project that we did with another sponsor there in Augusta, Georgia. We bought a 96 unit for $3.9 million. We sold it for 5.2. This was during COVID, but we were able to provide almost a 3x return of our investor money back in a very short period of time. So that was an exciting project. Actually, I should go back to that for a second. I think the highlight here for us is that our average annual return for our investors is presently sitting at just shy of 60% average annual return, or an equity multiple of 2.6, so 2.5 times. We're very proud of that and very thankful that we have achieved such a track record. And again, past performance is not indicative of future results, but this is the sort of experience and track record that we've been working on.